Okay, and welcome. This is going to be a sort of abbreviated Batrep for the last match we had in preparation for hopefully going to some regionals down in Colorado. My friend and I were trying to get ready here. These are the two fleets, some of the fleets we were thinking of bringing. You can see over here on the fleet list that I, as the Rebels, brought two MC-30s. They were the torpedoes with ordnance experts. I brought a transport with it was Bright Hope. It had Torn Farm BCCs on it, and I also brought Yavaris. And with Yavaris, I brought a ball of bombers to be able to hopefully, take down ships with some B-wings and some intel and Biggs and some YT 1300s. The plan here with this squad ball, and I've run something similar to this before, and I finally got a third YT 1300. I really find it satisfying when people try to take out my escorts that I can pass the damage around. I can brace it down with Nora. It's really nice. Those 7-hull YT 1300s with braces from with braces from Jan, and then also being able to pass off a damage from them or one from Biggs to someone else. It's just great. And then I have my two B-wings for the bombing. Nora, who is just amazing for stripping shields. Basically with the B-wings, if they roll the hit crit, they can do, pretty much 3 damage every time they shoot. And with Yavaris, that's 6 damage per B-wing if they can get that hit crit. And with BCCs, during this match, I was getting it fairly consistently. And then Nora would strip the shield plus the 2 damage. It was great. And I had those two B-wings doing that. Jan is in there for the braces. That's why she's there. I had some points left over, and I decided with them to bring an extra hawk. In this match, it didn't prove to be very useful, but I have found in the past that Jan can get killed by things, either my own stupidity for flying her somewhere or just IG-88 coming in and getting her. Various ways. Jan always seems to find a way to die quickly, and then I'm left with all my intel and my squads are all stuck down. So I decided with those extra points, instead of another X-Wing or something like that, to bring another Hawk for extra intel, just in case I need to free up some squads. As you can see, I can only push with Yavaris 2 because I didn't bring this time, like I usually do, Ramus for that extra token every single round. But I tried to compensate with that by bringing Garm as my admiral. Now, I've never flown him before. I never tried using him before, but I found it to be really very useful to have those extra tokens on both the transport and on Yavaris, so that I could have the 3 activations at least twice. Once, after the 5th round and once after the 1st round at some point. I think I ended up using them almost consecutively on turns 4 and 5 in this game. It worked out really, really well. I had the tokens when I needed them, and I didn't have to spend the extra points on Ramus, and everybody got tokens and not just the ship with Ramus on it. So that was nice. But I can only push 2 squads with Yavaris. My plan is to push the 2 B-Wings with Yavaris, hopefully using the Yavaris ability to turn them into a pseudo 4 B-Wings, getting those shots off every time. If I have to, I can do some anti-squatting with Yavaris. I can use it on whatever. But I also have the transport in there just in case I need to shove a few extra squads around or do something like that. I was not planning on activating all of these squads with ships. The escorts, their job is to sit out there and just be escorts and absorb damage away from my B-Wings and Nora. That was kind of my plan. The plan with the... you can see how I deployed here. This is going to be one of the MC-30s. This is the other MC-30. This is Yavaris, and this is the transport, and my squad ball is here. I made a mistake on deployment here, in that I always do this. The squad ball is really, really, really slow, and I put it over on this side of the map when it really should be more towards the middle to be able to adjust. I should have put it over on this side of Yavaris to be able to adjust to whatever he's going to do, because it can't hop across Yavaris very easily with those 2-speed B-Wings. It ends up getting getting really bogged down. The objective that we ran here was contested outpost. It was the worst of, my opponent felt 3 evils. I really liked this one because what I want, I have a 10-point bid, and I'd like to go first with my torpedo frigates to be able to jump in at the end of a round and then get him on the first round, the first activation the next round, and be able to fly away without getting shot at. That's ideal with my torpedo frigates. But since he had a fairly decent sized bid on his fleet, I think he had a 14-point bid where I had a 10. That didn't work. So I have some objectives that if I have to go second, make it a thing that I hopefully can do and win with, even though at first it'd be so much better. So contested outpost, my strategy here was to have this whole squad ball kind of sit somewhere near the outpost here with Yavaris there with them and the transport there with them, in order to, he has to come in and, try and get some points away from me from this outpost, because it's worth 20 points a turn if I'm close to it. And so he would be wanting to take that 20 points a turn away from me. If I can just sit there and rack up 20 points a turn and make him come to me, that is great, and it's what I want, because none of his ships are anything that can fly into this squad ball I have, this bomber ball, and survive. He brought a triple Glad fleet. He just recently got a new Gladiator, and so he's going to try out 3 of those. One of them is Demolisher, of course, and he brought Insidious, and then the other just generic Glad. All of them have APTs on them, and he only had 2 Ordnance Experts cards, so only 2 of them have Ordnance Experts. This is a Sloane fleet that he was trying out for hopefully, stripping some tokens, doing something like that. He hasn't had the greatest success with Sloane, and hasn't found her to be extra useful, and he's trying to make her useful. We aren't sure if it's just our playing style that isn't working with her or what's going on, because people seem to like Sloane a lot, but we haven't really been able to, make her work in any of the games that we've tried. So back with my strategy, since he picked contested outpost and I'm not going first, I wanted to have these guys sit here by the outpost, and I would have then 2 commands from Yavaris and 1 from the flotillas, and that gives me 3 next to this, so I should win against any of his Glads that come over here close. And I'll still get points if he flies 1 Glad in there. These frigates on the outside, I'm really afraid of Demolisher against these, because he can kill them in 1 shot, basically. So I don't want to overcommit, jump them in, and have Demolisher be able to shoot at them after he moves. That's what I'm trying to avoid. And since he's first player, I really didn't want them to be able to, he can't last first me since he doesn't have an activation advantage, but I was worried about that anyways for whatever reason. So what the plan should have been is to keep these guys close on the flanks out here, so that he has to come to me, and that I can set up a threat against a couple of his ships at the end of a turn, so that he has to pick who to move, and maybe I can kill something. That really should have been my plan with these guys. The idea is to set up a threat with both of them at the same time, so he has to pick and choose, and I still get to shoot at something before it moves. Because if I only threaten one thing with one of these torpedo frigates at a time, he will move that thing out of the way at the beginning of the round before I have a chance to shoot at it. So I have to plan for either a double threat from one of them, or threaten 2 things at the same time at the end of a round with both of them. And that's tricky. You'll see later on that I did not fly my torpedo frigates very well. His squads, he likes, this has been a pretty effective squad ball for him, with Steel, Jendon, Vader, Strom, and then Saber Squadron, which has Snipe, and I think that's why he brought that. He was also trying to find things with blue dice so that they could strip tokens. This is a variation of a squadron ball that he's brought. He has really liked these aces that the Empire brings, and they've worked pretty well against me. I am a little bit fearful of them when I see them. So we set up, as you can see here, he wanted to keep this Quasar from dying, so he's going to bring these out in front of it, is what I thought at this point. I forget which one of these is Demolisher. I think it's this middle one, but I'm not positive. Insidious, I believe, is this one, and his commander is this one. And I would assume the plan with Insidious is to, get behind me, because that's where he can shoot his black dice at medium range. That seems like a thing that you would want to do. And Demolisher will be looking for to park in front of one of my ships at the end of a round so that he can destroy it at the beginning of the next round. And I didn't really know what he was doing with this commander. Gladiator was just kind of flying around out there. I know he wants to keep this probably pretty close to these guys. He has relay with... Oh, no, he doesn't have relay. Never mind. I don't think Jendon gives relay. Well, no. I don't remember. Oh, no, Jendon doesn't have strategic. So he does have relay. So he can move 2 squads around if he wants, but that's not ideal with this. He wants to be moving 4 or 5 squads around with his Quasar every time. So he's probably going to want to keep this fairly close to these guys, I would think. He has the flight controllers on there. He put disposable capacitors on there to try and, give it some ability to shoot its blue dice at long range without getting really into the fight. And he tried out the Grand Inquisitor this time on his Quasar to be able to keep it changing speeds and adapting to what I do with my speeds. When I deploy, I usually like to deploy consistently at speed 2 with all of these guys, with my torpedo frigates, and then get a token and be able to go, with a nav command, be able to go to 4 or wherever I want to, 3 or 4, depending on where I want to jump in. This time with Garm, I didn't need to worry as much about having that nav token on there at the beginning, so it gave me a little more flexibility with what I was doing. I could deploy at 1 and still move up to 2 in the first turn with a nav token. You cannot, when I'm recording, come up here and make noise, Maddie. Now I have to delete that whole section.
I'm sorry.
What are you doing, sweetie?
I was wondering what was taking
Oh,
so
are you ready?
Why can't I make noise?
Because I'm recording.
Why can't I be in it?
Why would you need to be in my recording? I don't want you in there.
Well, I see why you have to delete the whole thing.
No, I have to delete that section. I have to go back. I'm going to find this whole section now and delete the whole thing out.
What is the problem with me being in it?
Well, now it's got me talking to you in it. I don't want that in there, so I'm going to have to delete that out.
Well, why'd you stop recording?
Yeah, that's probably an idea. I need to go tuck you guys in. So after some technical difficulties that we had with the internet, and I lost a chunk of the video, we jumped into sort of the end of turn 2. We're into the squad phase. What I did on turns 1, well, on turn 1, I set these guys down. I set these guys up to speed 1, moved them forward 1, so that they would be within 1 of the station and start getting me points at the end of turn 1. This turn, I had a nav command on there again and put them down to speed 0. So they were both parked here within 1 of this station, and that would let my squad ball get out here where I can deal with them. The idea was that I didn't want them to end up into where these glads are, and I wanted them back here by the station to force his glads to come to me. That's really what I wanted. So this worked out pretty well. I parked them here, started collecting tokens worth 20 apiece at the end of each round. If I could do that all 6 rounds, that's 120 points. That's a pretty good deal. And this keeps Yavaris back here out of the main danger, along with the flotilla, and lets my squad ball, which is really, really slow, position itself kind of up in front of Yavaris where he can still activate them. That was the idea on that turn. My torpedo frigates, which have already gone this turn, and it would be interesting to see how I had to make this decision. It didn't turn out well for me, and I was way too aggressive as second player. It really backfired for me. This guy up here, I don't feel like I did too terribly with. He on turn 1 ended up parking here in this range, going really, really fast. And then he got to get some shots off on this Glad and then move because he activated someone else first. This is Insidious, who has been coming around from this area. He's coming around and around and around to try and get behind me. This guy is Demolisher. This is his commander. So I was really, really worried about Demolisher, and that had a large factor in what I did with this guy. I made a really dumb move. He came from back in this area, and I jumped him into a speed 4 maneuver, thinking that I was going to park right up in here, just in his front arc, and blocking him from getting his side arcs at me. He would have to ram me. What ended up happening is I probably could have done that, but picked one of the maneuvers that was not as effective as I was looking at my maneuver tool. I think there was a way for me to do this. I ended up running my speed dial under his speed dial, hitting him, having to back up onto this asteroid, and I think it was an asteroid field. It was either that or I can't tell which one it is. But either way, had to do a bunch of damage to myself. Plus, this lets him get off a shot with his front, and then also come around and get me with his side. It was, all in all, a disaster, and it couldn't have gone much worse for me. I should have hung back here and made Demolisher make 1 or 2 more moves, get my squad ball over here in place to threaten him when he did, and that really would have been the smart thing to do. I did not do this smartly at all. I got these guys out here committed way too early, and as we'll see in a minute, it was bad for me. Here I am going to be moving my squad ball. That's where we're at. And I'm going to take the squad ball. I know he's going to try to attack me with Demolisher, so I'm going to take my squad ball, move it into here so that I am still within range of Yavaris for activations, but that he will not want, he'll be having to park himself somewhere where it's really bad news for him. So I measured for my range for Yavaris. I moved all these friends over into here. And that's what I did. So what happens here right away is that the Demolisher, it concentrates fire, it does a bunch of rerolls, and ends up getting a whole herd of damage on me with just his front arc. And that kills my torpedo frigate. So that's the end of that. Here, I make a really, really dumb move. I have over here, after he has moved Demolisher, this guy all ready to go to double arc this Quasar. And what I end up doing is not activating him first for fear that, I don't know, I'm trying to wait out so that this guy will be able to go before him, but I can't do that anymore because I lost my other torpedo frigates. He out activates me. So this whole thing is just really dumb on my part. I should have activated this guy to at least get this double arc on him so that I could try and do some damage here. Instead, I don't. I activate my flotilla first, move it forward, and I move a YT over here to help with the escorting, or I do something like that. And this guy sits here, and what ends up happening? He moves all of these squads over here to attack me. Plus, he gets a shot, I think a double arc, at least one arc off at me with his Quasar, and it turns out really badly for my torpedo frigate. That was a really dumb move. As we roll it forward here, you'll see me. I move a squad, move that up, and then he brings all of his squads over to attack the side of my torpedo frigate. And they're all hitting. He uses Jendon. I mean, these are some rolls that I just don't need to be dealing with. I mean, look at that. There's 3 blue hits. The whole thing is just terrible. And then he moves the Quasar, which has some troubles. And now I don't have a double arc shot. So when you are playing your games, make sure you think about who's activating and when they're activating is one of the most important things you can do, because it could very easily lose you games if you activate in the wrong order and do it at the wrong time. You have to be aware of what's going to happen and who is going to go, so that you don't do stupid things like I did and miss out on some really good shots and have your ship die. He still would have been able to throw these squadrons at me if I had gone first, and I'd be over here and this guy would be able to shoot at me, but at least I would have been able to do something. At this point, this torpedo frigate is basically useless. He's not doing anybody any good. You can see in this shot, I've had to double arc my torpedo frigate over here anyways, I think. I can't tell from this. It looks like these Glads have. That should be a double arc shot from that Glad. And I didn't save myself anything. All I did was not damage this guy. That was the only thing I accomplished. And it was a really dumb move. Also, it gets these squads here closer to my ships when they would have had to have been way over here. So, dumb move all around. Here I had to make an interesting decision that I don't often like to make. because with Yavaris, I feel like I'm really wasting his power if I activate squads and move them in order to shoot instead of having them sit and do a double tap. And I don't like doing it. But in this case, I didn't have any choices. What I've done is I've activated Nora and these B-Wings, and I brought them from somewhere in this area over to here. The plan was that after Yavaris moves, he's going speed 1. He'll move up to right about here. These guys will still be in range next turn, so that they can then just sit there and double tap the side of Demolisher. And that would be really, really nice. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. So I measured to make sure that they would still be in range of Yavaris when he moves. I had to guess because I have no idea exactly where he's going to end up. But I guessed into that one, and it turned out pretty well. So I did make the smart move here, and I moved Nora first because she has that crit effect that strips down shields, and then I moved the B-Wings later. So this is another spot where you have to pay attention to what order you move things in, because if I hadn't moved the Y-Wings first, Nora first, then these B-Wings wouldn't have been able to get that crit effect, and as it turns out, I got to use it with the B-Wings, so it was a good move for me. So we rolled ahead here so that you can see what's happened in the last couple of turns. I have no more torpedo frigate over here. It died. I think these two ships, I think this guy rammed this guy, and that's why he hasn't moved. Demolisher here is about to be in a big bit of trouble because he had to move, and he moved right into here, and he's going to take some abuse. So what ends up happening now, you can see here where Demolisher's sitting over here in the action cam with all of these squads beside him. I have Jan, I have Nora. The most important was Nora and the B-Wings, and I think I have the other set of B-Wings right here. So both sets of B-Wings have Nora within range, and they can get at Demolisher. So he is not long for this world. I have been careful, hopefully, to move these guys within range of Yavaris for when he activates, so that they are able to be activated by Yavaris and just sit there and take 2 shots apiece at the side of Demolisher. This is another interesting spot in the game where you can see I almost made a fatal flaw. I left no squads over here on the side of Yavaris. I did not anticipate these guys coming over here and attacking his side. I should have left a YT over here, or better yet, if we roll this back, I'll show you that an even better option would have been, well, I'm rolling the wrong direction. If we roll this back the right direction, an even better option would have been, I had an extra ship to move, and I decided to, for whatever reason, right here, move this little YT over here. I thought I was protecting this side of my squad ball from his squads, which were going to come over here and start attacking my squads. I did not think about the side of Yavaris, which is extremely vulnerable to squads like this with only its one shield. And that was a fatal mistake. What I should have done is take this YT or an X-Wing or anything and jump it up here into range. I think I could have engaged at least a couple of these guys at distance 2, because they can only move 2. I probably could have engaged at least a couple of these guys, and they would have had to sit there and chew through that guy, and it would have been a great sacrifice. Luckily, I did not end up losing Yavaris, but it was only just blind luck that I didn't, because he's very fragile on those sides. You'll see I move him forward, and then he says, good, I'm going to send all of my squads and attack the side of Yavaris. Bad idea on my part. I promptly corrected that mistake and moved a YT right on over there so that he would be engaged and have to deal with that guy. At this point in the game, it was getting late, and we ended up calling it. I had gotten all of the tokens so far and was probably going to get all of the tokens, all 6 of the tokens for the contested outpost. So that's 120 points in my favor. I had killed Demolisher, and I was probably going to thin out his squad ball. I might have lost a few more squads. I lost both of my torpedo frigates that had ordnance experts on them, and that gave me a fairly decent margin of victory. I don't remember the exact score, but it was pretty decent. Who knows what would have happened in turn 6 if he had to fly this guy over into here. He wasn't probably going to kill Yavaris or my transports. I might maybe have been able to do some damage on him with my bombers, but a lot of them are sitting over here and not being extra useful for attacking this gladiator. So we called it there, and it was getting late. We had to go to bed. It was a good game, and we learned a lot of things. I learned that don't overcommit your ships when you're player 2, especially little fragile ones like the torpedo frigates, because they'll just die. I should have hung back. I am happy with how I played with my squad ball, except for that time that I left the side of Yavaris open here. That was a huge mistake, and I almost had to pay for that one. All in all, it was a good game, and it allowed us to really see how we think our fleets will fly. I don't know how this squad ball would perform against a more dedicated squadron ball from the Empire. I just have no way of knowing that. Maybe I'll get to test it here at some point. Again, thanks for watching. It's always fun for us to put out these little videos, and hopefully they're useful for some of you. We're getting better and better the more we play. We aren't perfect, but we think we're doing a pretty good job, and we do have a lot of fun when we play these games, and like to share that with other people. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you during our next match.